The loudspeaker crackled, echoing through the bustling terminal of Dallas Love Field Airport. Travelers hurried toward their gates, luggage wheels clicking rhythmically against the tiled floors. Near gate C-12, Barron Trump sat, his tall frame folded into a chair that seemed almost too small for him. Dressed in a simple hoodie and sneakers, he looked like any other teenager scrolling through his phone. At 17, Barron's life was anything but ordinary, but he had mastered the art of blending into the crowd when in public. Today, however, his efforts were about to be tested in a way he never anticipated. A gate agent, an older man with sharp features and an impatient demeanor, scanned the area. His eyes landed on Barron, who was seated in the priority boarding section. Something about the teenager's calm yet aloof demeanor seemed to unsettle him. Clearing his throat, the agent approached. "Excuse me, young man," the agent said, his tone carrying an edge of suspicion. "Are you sure you're in the right boarding group?" Barron looked up, startled but composed. "Yes, I am," he replied, his voice steady. "I have a first-class ticket." The agent scrutinized him, his gaze flickering between Barron's phone, his casual attire, and his face. "Can I see your ticket?" Barron hesitated for a moment. It wasn't the first time he'd been singled out without cause, but the tone of this encounter felt different. More aggressive. Reluctantly, he handed over his boarding pass. The agent's eyes narrowed as he read the name displayed. Barron Trump. The agent's expression shifted, but instead of backing off, his demeanor grew even more confrontational. "Wait here," he instructed curtly before walking away. Passengers nearby began to notice the interaction, their whispers a growing hum of curiosity. Barron felt heat rise to his cheeks but kept his expression neutral, unwilling to feed the situation. Moments later, the agent returned with a supervisor in tow. The supervisor's stern expression mirrored the escalating tension. "There seems to be an issue with your ticket," the agent stated. "You'll need to step aside while we sort this out." "What issue?" Barron asked, his tone firm but calm. "I booked this ticket weeks ago." "We're handling it, sir," the supervisor interjected. "Please step away from the gate." As Barron complied, he could feel the stares of fellow passengers, some now openly recording the scene on their phones. The murmurs grew louder, each whisper a jab at his patience. Frustration simmered, but Barron bit his tongue, unwilling to make a scene. Yet the situation only escalated further. Minutes turned into half an hour. Barron stood near a column, watching as other passengers boarded without issue. The scrutiny from the gate staff and the crowd's murmurs felt heavier with each passing second. His patience, a shield he had learned to wield, was wearing thin. Finally, the supervisor returned, accompanied by airport security. The presence of uniformed officers drew even more attention, phones now fully raised to capture the spectacle. "Sir, we need you to come with us," one officer said in a measured tone. Barron sighed, his disbelief at the situation evident. "Fine." He grabbed his carry-on and followed the officers into a small, sterile room near the gate. The whispers and camera flashes followed like a storm cloud. Inside, Barron sat at a plain table, his frustration mounting. The officers flipped through his passport, their expressions unreadable. "This is ridiculous," Barron muttered under his breath. "You have all my information. What more do you need?" "We're just following protocol," one officer replied, though the phrase felt hollow, an excuse rather than an explanation. Barron's patience was fraying, the weight of an unspoken bias pressing down on him. Meanwhile, in a black SUV weaving through Dallas traffic, Melania Trump sat poised, her phone buzzing incessantly. She had planned a surprise visit to meet her son after his flight, but the flood of text messages and social media alerts told a different story. One clip caught her attention: Barron, flanked by security, being led away from the gate. Her expression hardened as she replayed the video. "Driver, please hurry," she said, her voice calm but laced with urgency. Back at the airport, Barron sat in the small room, his frustration palpable. The officers had stepped out, leaving him alone to stew in silence. He tapped his fingers against the table, the rhythm a small defiance against the absurdity of the situation. The door opened suddenly and the supervisor re-entered. "We're still working on clearing up the situation," he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. "How much longer?" Barron demanded, his tone sharp. "You've had all my information for almost an hour." Before the supervisor could respond, the door opened again, this time revealing Melania Trump. Her entrance was like a storm breaking, calm, deliberate, but undeniably powerful. The officers and the supervisor froze, their expressions a mix of surprise and apprehension. "What is going on here?" Melania asked, her voice calm but carrying a weight that demanded answers. One officer fumbled for words. "This is just standard protocol, ma'am." "Protocol," she echoed, her gaze icy. "You are holding my son in a small room with no explanation. What kind of protocol is this?" The supervisor stepped forward, his face pale. "Mrs. Trump, this is all a misunderstanding. We were trying to verify his ticket." "A misunderstanding?" Her voice remained steady but sharpened with each word. "You had his ticket, his passport, and his name. What else do you need? A written invitation to board the plane?" The room fell silent. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, and the supervisor's protests died on his lips. Melania's presence was commanding, her words cutting through their weak defenses. "I want to speak to someone in charge," she said firmly. The supervisor hesitated but eventually nodded, retreating to make a call. Melania turned to Barron, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Barron nodded. "Yeah, I'm fine. They've just been wasting my time." Her gaze softened, but her determination remained unshaken. "Not for much longer," she promised. Minutes later, the supervisor returned with a higher-ranking airport official. The official extended a hand, which Melania pointedly ignored. "I understand there's been a misunderstanding," he began. "I assure you will be reviewing this incident and taking appropriate action." "Appropriate action?" Melania raised an eyebrow. "Does that include addressing the staff who escalated this without cause? Or reviewing the footage that shows exactly how this began?" The official paled. "We can certainly pull up the footage, ma'am." "Do it," she said firmly, her voice leaving no room for argument. A laptop was brought in and grainy footage of the incident played. It showed Barron at the gate, sitting quietly before being approached by the gate agent. The unnecessary questioning and the escalation were evident. When the video ended, Melania turned to the supervisor. "You owe my son a public apology." "Of course," the man stammered. "We'll address it right away." Melania wasn't done. "This isn't just about an apology. It's about accountability. This behavior is unacceptable and it needs to change." The supervisor led the way back to the gate area, his shoulders slumped under the weight of the moment. Melania walked beside him, her stride measured and unyielding, Barron following close behind. The passengers who had witnessed the earlier commotion were still gathered, their curiosity piqued. At the gate, the supervisor addressed the crowd, his voice wavering. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take a moment to apologize for a situation that occurred earlier today. A misunderstanding involving one of our passengers, Mr. Barron Trump, led to actions that were unnecessary and inappropriate." A murmur rippled through the crowd, some passengers nodding in agreement. Melania stepped forward, her voice cutting through the noise. "Thank you for your words, but words are not enough. This is not just about my son. It is about the principle of treating every individual with respect and dignity." The crowd erupted into applause, a rare moment of unity. For Barron, the experience was a lesson in resilience. For Melania, it was a reminder that respect is a right, not a privilege. Together, they boarded their flight, determined to turn the incident into a catalyst for change. The first-class cabin of the plane was quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos Barron had just endured. As they settled into their seats, Melania reached over and gave her son's hand a reassuring squeeze. Barron leaned back, letting out a long sigh. The weight of the incident lingered, but his mother's presence was a balm to his frayed nerves. "Are you okay?" she asked again, her voice soft. "I'll be fine," Barron replied, though his eyes betrayed a lingering frustration. "It's just exhausting, you know? Always being judged." Melania nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I know. But what matters is how you rise above it." Barron looked out the window as the plane began its taxi to the runway. The hum of the engines filled the cabin, a soothing white noise that helped ease his thoughts. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling of the cameras pointed at him earlier, the whispers and judgments that seemed to follow him wherever he went. As the plane ascended, Melania's phone buzzed incessantly with notifications. She glanced at the screen and sighed. Social media had already erupted with the story. Videos of the incident were trending, accompanied by hashtags both supportive and critical. She scrolled through the posts, her face a mask of calm. "It's all over the internet," she said, showing Barron a particularly viral clip of him being led away by security. "This might get worse before it gets better." Barron groaned. "Great. Just what I needed." "Don't let it bother you," Melania advised. "This is an opportunity to turn negativity into something meaningful." As they settled into the flight, Melania began drafting a statement to address the incident. Her words were measured, emphasizing the need for respect and dignity for all individuals. She planned to release it as soon as they landed, knowing that staying silent was not an option. Meanwhile, in the economy section, whispers about the earlier drama persisted. Some passengers scrolled through their feeds, debating the events and forming opinions. A flight attendant, recognizing Barron from the videos, approached their seats cautiously. "Mr. Trump, Mrs. Trump," she began, her voice wavering. "On behalf of our airline, I'd like to extend my apologies for what happened earlier. It's not how we want any of our passengers to feel." Melania regarded her with a calm but firm expression. "Thank you for your words. I hope your management takes this as a learning moment. Respect should never be optional." The attendant nodded and retreated, leaving a tray of complimentary snacks as a peace offering. Barron gave his mother a small smile. "You're really good at this," he said. "It's not about being good," Melania replied. "It's about doing what's right." As the flight progressed, Melania's statement began to take shape. She envisioned it not just as a response to the incident, but as a call to action for greater accountability and empathy in public service. She knew this was more than a personal matter. It was an opportunity to spark meaningful dialogue. By the time the plane touched down in New York, the buzz around the incident had reached a fever pitch. Reporters swarmed the terminal, cameras flashing as Melania and Barron disembarked. Melania's composed demeanor didn't falter as she addressed the media briefly, reiterating her call for respect and accountability. The next morning, her statement went live. It garnered widespread attention, sparking debates on bias, privilege, and the responsibilities of public-facing institutions. For Barron, the experience was a crash course in resilience. For Melania, it was another chapter in her ongoing advocacy for dignity and respect. The incident became a flashpoint, inspiring changes in airline policies and renewed conversations about implicit bias. And while the experience had been harrowing, it also served as a reminder of the power of standing firm in the face of adversity.